Titilola Dawudu is a Nigerian-born British storyteller and producer. She is the company director for Sour Lemons and trustee for the Theatre Centre and is on the advisory boards for Beyond, Face Theatre and Creative Leamington. She's part of the Black Women in Theatre team behind the iconic We Are Visible photo shoot of over 250 Black women which was held at the Globe Theatre in July 2019. During the pandemic, Black Women in Theatre partnered with the Eclipse Theatre and Bush Theatre in creating the All of Us campaign and Here to Stay, a 4-week redundancy recovery care programme. This saw 50 Black, Asian and ethnically diverse people who were made redundant, who were at risk of, come together and receive financial, mentoring and job support.
We're trying our best. We will get there. We're reviewing our policies. We've been reading some books. This is intention, and you can argue that at least it's a place to start, but there's something missing, majorly missing, and that's accountability. Accountability for not creating a culture where Black creators thrive in your organisation or you're on plays or productions or whatever. Accountability for harm caused to your Black colleagues and creatives. Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. Doing this best you can until you know better isn't short-term fixes. It's not about creating a showcase of Black work. And I'm not talking about equal opportunity policies or quotas or blind casting, or even anti-racism statements that may mean well, but doesn't mean anything if there's no action. These are all plasters, in my opinion. These are things to put in place to make you believe that you're doing something. But it's not the deeper long-term work that is actually needed. This Maya Angelou quote is one we often use at Sour Lemons, where I'm company director. We work within the creative arts and cultural sectors to give organisations tools to practice anti-racism. Practice, that's the word. Becoming anti-racist takes work that goes way beyond a training session. It evolves. Mistakes are made, you go back to the drawing board. You are not reactive, and you admit harm. Sour Lemons founder, Sade Banks, set up the organisation to hold people to account. We hold the sector to account. We hold organisations, freelancers, funding bodies, all to account. All the while asking, how are Black people thriving in your organisations? Where are your Black decision makers? And again, how are they thriving? What is the culture you operate to allow Black creatives to be their authentic selves? Because the real work is uncomfortable. I've been in a workshop where one of our facilitators said to an organisation, you know the leadership programme that you've got is actually upholding white supremacy. You see shuffling. Screens suddenly being turned off with, oh, well, the internet's a bit wobbly in the chat. I've witnessed white people not being able to call themselves white people. I've witnessed rage and tears. But being held to account isn't about shaming or calling out necessarily. It's allowing room for movement, questioning, probing change. White people have the luxury of not having to think about race. That is a benefit of being white, of being part of the dominant group. Just like men don't have to think about gender. The system works for us and we don't have to think about it. Race is something else, something that belongs to somebody else. That's a quote by civil rights and liberties expert John A. Powell. It's about the harm that is being done to Black creatives, Black staff members in your organisation, and what's being done about that harm. And it's also about celebrating Black creativity and talent and not putting people in schemes or programmes to assimilate into the dominant culture. It's not about programming only trauma-based work by Black artists. It's not creating a fund for Black artists, but there's no progression, no advancement for these artists. That's not going to cut it. That was then, and this is now. I've had a 20-year professional career, starting out working on a morning breakfast show. I started out as a runner, and I worked my way up. I could count on one hand the amount of black people that were hired in the 4 years that I was there. I left the year that Barack Obama became the first black president of the United States, and I'll never forget it. I sobbed my eyes out because history was being made, and I quit soon after because every face around me didn't understand my tears. I quit because I was tired of being left out and made to feel invisible. I quit because I was being passed over for promotion, no matter how hard I worked, how late I stayed, or how great I thought I was at my job. Or maybe I needed more support to get me there, but that was never on offer. I moved into working into the charity sector and made documentaries with young people before supporting the setup of a charity in London called Reaching Higher. I created theatre programmes for young people, most of them black, and who had never been to the theatre before, taking them to see their first play or production, and I'd like to think that I raised their aspirations of what they can be and who they can be. I remember my first time at the theatre. I was 14 and I was given a mentor at school. I was quite shy, but I was a real avid reader. My mentor was called Lucy Neal, who's the co-founder of Lift, although I didn't know it at the time. We saw Othello at the National Theatre and I was mesmerised by the great actor David Harewood as Othello. This stayed with me, and years later I moved into the theatre sector and became a producer and storyteller. I met Lucy again after 20 years. I told her I had pursued a career in the arts, and although I took many different routes, I found my way back to the theatre. My career has taken many different turns and trajectories, working in media, charity sector in the arts sector. All the while, you know what I saw? Me oftentimes being the only black person in the room. I went on these schemes and programmes. I was fully aware that most organisations, I was a diversity hire. I am the product of all this good intention. I have been cited in funding bids. I've been in photos for organisational brochures or marketing campaigns. And now I'm the company director of an organisation. So it's working then, right? I'm a black woman in a leadership position in the arts and cultural sector. But all these things have happened to me. Being called the N-word or being called coloured, having the N-word used around me in my presence, mistaken for the cleaner, being called by another black colleague's name, not being believed or told to have more resilience if I've reported racism, etc., etc. Where was the accountability for the harm that was caused? 365 days ago, More Than a Moment was created to dismantle systems that keep black creatives and artists from reaching their potential in the arts and cultural industries, reaching our potential. So how do we do that if these things keep happening? Or we're giving a little bit, just over there, enough to say that you've worked with diverse artists, or we have a diverse team. At Sour Lemons, our framework for holding organisations to account is by working with them deeply and transparently. Our enabling environments work, delivered by our amazing team, provides listening spaces to hear the harm caused to black and global majority colleagues. We go through policies, we tear up recruitment processes, we interrogate why an organisation hasn't got any black leadership and only apprentices or associates on short-term contracts. We ask them to imagine what an anti-racist sector should look like. We ask them to admit to the harm that they have caused their black and global majority colleagues. And it's been working, but it's not been easy. We need to hold accountability where we can. Over lockdown last year, I received Arts Council England funding for volume 2 of an anthology I've co-created with Tamasha Theatre. It's called Hear Me Now, Audition Monologues for Actors of Colour. And the first book, as you can see now, was published in 2018, and the second book is due out next spring. I used to write audition monologues for my black actor friends because oftentimes they didn't have a decent monologue to audition with. And more often than not, they walk into casting rooms or audition rooms and there's casting directors or theatre and TV directors and they're all white. For volume 2, I was able to give 170 freelancers work and to exercise their creativity, predominantly creatives, facilitators who are black and from the global majority. My Arts Council England funding bid stated that we need to hold the sector to account by supporting black and global majority artists, but in this case, specifically, the Arts Council. Give me the money to support black and global majority artists during the pandemic, I wrote boldly in my application. We need to celebrate ourselves and we need to see ourselves. With Volume 2, I worked with the amazing Birmingham actor and producer Jade Samuels, who I know is a part of the summit. For the book, I pulled out of working with a particular Birmingham venue because it had caused harm, and it was my way of holding them to account. But still important to highlight the amazing artists in Birmingham. So big up to Adair Henry, Corey Weeks, Casey Bailey, and all the incredible Midlands artists who contributed to the book. I moved my family to the Midlands in 2019 for a job in Coventry, and working in the Midlands, outside of the London bubble, what was quickly apparent is Black Midlands creators are doing the work despite and because of, thriving together. When we decided not to work with that Birmingham venue, I did a call out on social media, and at the time I didn't have much of a network in the Midlands. I met Jade online, and Jade rallied. She called, she connected, and together we thrived. But also together, I know we've been hurt by this sector, erased and left outside. There's a book I'm currently reading. There's a book I'm currently reading by Me Too founder Tarana Burke and professor and author Brené Brown called You Are Your Best Thing. And it's taken from a part of the Toni Morrison book called Beloved. On the 25th of July, 2019, Black Women in Theatre, which I'm a member of, brought together over 250 Black women to the Globe for an iconic photo shoot, including incredible Black women from the Midlands. We are tired of being invisible and erased. We know that we are our best thing. The sector needs to catch up. Black Women in Theatre in September 2020, along with Eclipse and Bush Theatre, raised £20,000 in crowdfunding to support 50 Black and global majority freelancers who were at risk of or had lost their jobs due to the pandemic. We know we are our best thing. The sector needs to catch up. What's going to happen in another 365 days in the Midlands? We will not wait to be perfect because we believe the time is now. We would rather be held accountable for our mistakes than forgiven for our inaction. This quote is from the amazing Adrienne Marie Brown. Please look them up and find out more about who they are. So actually, forget about what I said at the beginning, and it's not because it's not about trying our best, we've got policies in place. Seriously and deeply think about what do you think is the cost of survival for Black creatives? Think about that slide that showed all of the things that have happened to me, that was thought of me, said to me, or said about me. Replace me with any Black colleagues that you know, or people that you know, guaranteed they have experienced some, if not all, if not more. What do you think is stopping us from thriving and being our best thing, reaching our potential? And as Adrienne says, the time is now. It's always been now. Thank you.